Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Brandon Carpenter from the Seven Eagles Group, and I am joined here with Leo Schofield.
How you doing, everybody?
And we have the special guest for you, Anthony Butler. He did 10 years, Navy veteran, started his career off as a nuclear reactor operator, then went plant supervisor, and had the opportunity to be a Navy recruiter, which, I'm assuming helped him out to his current role with Logitech as a global talent acquisition program manager. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So, we love having these podcasts with our veterans who are out there. We call it Pay It Forward for a reason, for the opportunity for us to be able to drop some nuggets of knowledge to all our listeners and viewers who are getting ready to transition out of service, or a veteran who's looking for, hey, what are some tips and tricks so I can, get my career started and moving forward. So, anything that you have to share with us, we definitely look forward to hearing it.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Yeah, so it'd be great to kind of start off, learn a little bit about yourself and unravel that. And the best place to start is the beginning. So I definitely want to understand a little bit more about what started your journey off to joining service.
Absolutely. Like a lot of people getting out of high school, kind of went to college because I was kind of told to, right? The family wants you to go and you got to go do that. So went to community college for a couple of years. Wasn't really my thing. Wasn't really like what I was learning about. I grew up in upstate New York, about 2.5 hours outside New York City. Ended up moving from there down to Miami area, lived there for a couple of years, and actually drove past a recruiting station every day going back and forth to work. Wasn't really doing much with myself that was too positive, and kind of needed to do something. So I ended up stopping in, took the ASVAB, and rest is history. Scored pretty well, obviously. Ended up getting in and doing the Navy nuclear program. So was lucky enough to be in Charleston for a couple of years for schooling, and also back up to upstate New York, where I was from for my last part of my schooling. And then went from there over to the USS Enterprise, which is an aircraft carrier that was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. Was there for about 6 years. We did their last deployment, and then when it came back, we actually were part of the decommissioning team. So pretty much the Navy still needs to be there. Nuclear operators need to be there until all of the reactors are actually taken out of the aircraft carrier. So we were there to do that and help with that process with shipyard. So that was actually a pretty big hookup for me. I didn't have to go back out to sea. I was still getting sea pay, hanging out in the shipyard for an extra 3 years. I couldn't rotate and go somewhere else. I was kind of forced to be there. So it actually worked out pretty well. So I ended up extending and staying in there. When I left there, I got the opportunity to go out to San Francisco to be a recruiter. So did that for about a year as just a regular recruiter. That I started running an actual station for about a year. Then my last year while I was there, I actually got into recruiting and running the whole entire program for all of San Francisco area to get all of the Navy nukes that were trying to get into the program. They had to do a bunch of extra academic and background checks and other things that other jobs don't have to do. So I actually helped to get them all squared away and got them into the program as well. So that's a little bit about my Navy career and journey while I was in. Getting out of the Navy, I actually got the opportunity to do a skill bridge program. So I don't know if you're familiar with shift.org. They're based out of California, and I actually went with them. They had my command signed off on it. They were cool with me doing 2 months of still being in the Navy, but being TAD, pretty much not having to go do my regular recruiting job. I was actually going and working at Logitech full time, but getting paid by the Navy still, which was amazing. Also great for Logitech, right? They weren't paying for me. They were just getting my services for free, right? To kind of check out and see if I'd be a good fit for the company. Ended up going really, really well, and then ended up joining from there. And so that's been a little bit about me. I've been at Logitech now for about 3 years.
Oh wow, that's great. That's great to hear. And also, Anthony, you've dropped so many nuggets just within the 5 minutes of us getting a little bit about you. I do want to circle back on some things too. So I want to ask you. So how did your military experience kind of pave the way for where you are now? And then also too, I wanted to kind of touch on this two-part question. Was there a certain point in your career that you knew you wanted to, have a career change and separate and do something different?
Absolutely. Great question. I think one of the biggest things that helped me get into what I'm into now, obviously, like you said in the beginning, right? Getting into that recruiting and HR side of things when I was at the latter part of my Navy career really helped me transition into the recruiting side of things now. Now that I'm doing that in Logitech, I think the biggest thing that I took away from the Navy was, you have that hard work and discipline and you have a task and you don't really have an option to get it done, as you probably both know sometimes how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into the civilian world, I very quickly realized that not everyone has that work ethic and that urgency to get things done, right? A lot of red tape, a lot of, let's collaborate with this person and this person and this person. And I think what really helped sell myself in my interview was because we're in the military, we can adapt to anything, right? Not the average person does not go from doing their regular job to then going to be a recruiter or living on an aircraft carrier or just being naturally uncomfortable, right? We're comfortable being uncomfortable, which a lot of people are not. So I think that's something that really helped me get into what I'm doing now. And I'm absolutely loving what I'm doing now, loving the HR side of things, not having a lot of business background, being on the HR, being in the Navy, obviously in the military, we don't deal with a lot of the numbers and all that kind of stuff, right? We're focused more on getting the job done.
Mm-hmm.
So I take this as an opportunity to really get into a corporation and really see what parts of the company I wanted to get myself into for the long term. Honestly, probably don't see myself going to be in HR forever, but you don't know, right? I mean, I've been learning so many different facets of the company, which have been really, really helpful for me. So that's been absolutely amazing.
Oh wow, that is honestly amazing. And also too, so is this, industry, is this something that you already knew that you wanted to do, or is there the honest question? I was, just thinking about it. Our career takes us in different paths of walks of life, but did you know, hey, I wanted to be a recruiter, talent acquisitions, or did that kind of just fall into your lap during your time in the Navy?
It actually it fell into my lap, honestly, when I was doing my transition with the skill bridge. I actually applied and went on a bunch of interviews for jobs all over the country. Right, we were planning on trying to get back to the East Coast. I'm in Charlotte now. Like I said, we were out in San Francisco. My wife and I, both of our families are both from the East Coast, so I wanted to get back and be near some family again. So I was interviewing all over the place: New York, Baltimore, DC. And when I got this opportunity at Logitech, they were based out in California. I couldn't pass it up. I got there. The climate was amazing. The company is all about the people. It's a really, really great spot to work at. I think that's what kind of drove me that way. So I in no way was like, oh, I can't wait to go get into consumer electronics and into HR, right? I think I had an open mind, which I think a lot of people need to do more of getting out of the military. They're kind of like, oh, well, when I was in the Navy, or the military, I did X, so I need to go do that. You don't, right? There's so many other avenues you can go down. Like I said, I'm in program management. I have friends that are in product design, that are in product management, that are in tons and tons of different avenues that didn't do any of that in the military in their experience. Supply chain, tons and tons of really great things. So I think it's just having that open mind is really one of the biggest things that I took away from my transition in going through the skill bridge, because they put me in front of all different companies from all different walks of life, which was really cool.
I think that honestly that is really cool, and it's that service member, kind of really taking a deep dive into, hey, let me look at my tenure in the military, and how do my experiences relate to this particular role. Because I tell people I was security forces, right? So we
Okay.
did law enforcement,
Yep.
and things of that nature. But I find myself here with 70 Group, being able to assist, veterans, and because I've led troops, and I
Yep.
enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
so no, you really hit home. Now I want to ask you. So with you transitioning, did you face? Is there any barriers that you face that if you could tell somebody, hey, pay attention to this, or maybe focus on this, something that I mean, you shared a lot already, but any particular barriers that you face transitioning out?
I would say some things that I would have actual service wise. You probably both already know. Start your VA early and often, and claim everything you possibly can, even if you're not sure. And potentially talk to somebody before you go to the VA and do all your stuff that really can help you and figure out what it is that you need to like talk to somebody about, right? I feel like the VA in general is kind of like this weird mystery that you don't understand when you're in, right? Because you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't care. My medical's all taken care of. We're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get out and you're like, oh, hold on a second. Like this really can help me down the line. Especially for, I mean, big things, like I was in an engine room for half of my career. So I have like not hearing issues, but hearing degradation from when I started to now. What people don't realize is that 20 years from now, if I need hearing aids, the VA pays for that, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
all these little things that people don't really know about and don't think about of how much assistance you can get from them. And then I would say when it comes into like getting into a career, things that I've just talked to my recruiters about that I work with have always said, a lot of people that come out of the military try to get too specific on what they've done, right? Be a little more broad and hit the key things that the job description is asking for. You don't need to tell me that you did this, on a base in Missouri. You need to tell me that you can do it so that then when I look at your resume, I understand that this hiring manager can relate to you. I think one of the hardest things that we find on our side is I've been a huge advocate, of course, for veterans getting into Logitech, and I've met with a lot of hiring managers that are like, oh well, I don't understand, like I can't relate to them, or I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand what they did, or like how does them coming in being a designer anything like what they did in the military when they were in whatever security forces. But I think it's like that. It's this understanding that people can come from untraditional backgrounds to get into these jobs, and it's all about kind of taking like that little bit of a leap to help somebody out.
Totally agree. So, veterans who are watching, 100%, you can. Your skills translate hard, soft. Just really deep dive on that. And Anthony, thank you so much for sharing that particular piece. That is very important. And Leo, I want to pit the floor over to you. So I want to, if you have any questions.
Hey Anthony, how you doing? I'm Leo. Again, I served in the Navy for 4.5 years on the USS America as an aircraft fireman. So basically, my question for you is, just to kind of clarify and get the whole overview of all these questions we kind of asked. With the skills you had from transferring from being a nuke into now an HR and Logitech, what are some of the hard skills and soft skills that you either developed or have had to hone in on to be able to make that transfer?
Absolutely. I think some of the biggest things that I have used coming into this job now definitely is organization, time management. I mean, we all do that so much, right? And then not only that, I am not currently running a team now. Like you said, in the military, you're not asked to lead; you're pretty much forced to lead for the most part, right? Whether it's on a small or a big capacity. So I think that and being able to communicate with people that you don't always work with, right? A lot of times if you're on a ship or anywhere, you're working with other departments that you may not be used to working with or don't know exactly what they do or what their time schedule is and all those kind of things. I think it's really that interpersonal being able to connect with somebody and chat and talk to them and talking to them like they're a human being, right? Not like you're talking down to them or like you're looking up to them because they're this, C-suite level person. Everyone, puts their pants on the same way every day. So I think that's what I've really taken away from it. Of course, coming from the military, of course, we always have the chain of command and you got to follow your chain of command and all those things. When I left my ship and while our recruiting command was very much a very open policy, right? Where you can walk in the CEO's door. I had to report numbers to her every day when I was doing the end of my job. So I was on a very personal relationship with her, and our CEO is actually very much the exact same way, along with our leadership team, right? So you see them in the hallways and talk to them just like they're a regular person. I think that's a huge part of it as well. It's kind of being able to have everyone be on the same playing field.
Definitely. That's one thing I faced in my naval career as well, because we didn't have that type of bond with our COs or higher ups. It just kind of felt like, you're kind of scared. You're like that fresh out of boot camp airman, just standing there at attention, trying to put a word out or just say hi, and you're a little, shaken up. But with that question comes, post transition as you're working in HR. Is there anything on people's resumes or whenever you look at their LinkedIn, if you guys check their LinkedIn, that really stands out to you guys in your HR, whether it's, how they look professionally or what they post or how many comments or activity wise?
That's a great question. So I think LinkedIn is a really important one. Doesn't matter what any recruiter tells you, they are looking at your LinkedIn. Before you go to an interview, someone's looking at your LinkedIn. I think the big thing is just keeping it professional, right? You don't need to be in a suit, decked out. Let people know that maybe you have a family. That's okay, or that you love your dog or whatever. That's fine. And people realize that you are an actual person, right? You're not just like this random squared off mugshot that people just see. And, so I think that's a big part of it is being personal. And I think another part of it really would be posting and liking things that you are interested in, right? If you want to come work for Logitech and we own Logitech G, which is a gaming company, and we see that you love gaming, that's probably going to help you a little bit when you go into an interview, right? When the manager sees, I'm the person that actually designed this headset that you're wearing right now to play your games with. All those things kind of come full circle and make it so that it makes it more of that personal and not just you're just a random body or a number, right? I know a lot of times people think that recruiting is it's all the numbers and we have 5 interviews and we're going to get through it and whoever's the best, you're going to take them. But it really is about that connection, is what I think is a really, really big part of it.
Okay. So basically making, not just your resume, but your profile and what you do. It's okay to make it personal. It doesn't have to be too really an industry
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be too industrialized. It can be, you can have a little fun with it while you're making your profile, and that helps people actually see who you are as a person rather than, this guy's just another person in a suit.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And then my final question would be just, time management. This is a big one for me as well. How did you manage a lot of your time post-transition? I know in the Navy, we're always on go, do this, do that, do this, do this. How did you kind of after you landed your first career, manage your time? Whether it was, taking time off personally or trying to tell yourself, hey, we can slow down a little bit. It doesn't have to be done right now. Yeah, that's a personal question for me.
Absolutely. And I had that exact same struggle because, like you said, when you're in, there's always something going on. You're always busy. You're always getting stuff accomplished. Whereas in the deadlines are not as crazy when you're in a regular company, right? Our company is very fast paced. We run very lean, with a lot of stuff going on, which is part of the reason why I like this job, because it is very busy, which is great. Mm-hmm. But I felt the exact same thing. I was getting not bored, but almost I've already got all this done. I don't want to get too much done today, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? I'll stagger it throughout the week. But what I found was happening with me was that I was like, oh, well, I'll just keep working later. Oh, I'll just come online earlier and keep getting more stuff done because we're used to doing that, right? I'm like, oh, well, my wife's still at work right now. She was previously in a pharmacist in a retail pharmacy in CVS. So she would work like 10-hour days. So I was like, oh, well, if she's there for 10 hours, I can just keep working for 10 hours. When I should have been taking some time for myself, going to the gym, stopping for lunch, all that kind of good stuff, right? So it's like definitely like having to rein yourself back in, make sure you have that good work-life balance. I will admit that Logitech is amazing about that. So they really push it on you to be like, hey, take a couple hours out of your day and block off some time, right? If you come online early for a call in Europe, then take an extra lunch, right? Or something like that. So I definitely find myself doing that a lot more, especially now that I'm fully remote and work from home. I really have to be strict about like, okay, I'm done for today. If someone asks me a question, I'm not going back in my office and doing it at 10 o'clock at night when I'm about to get in bed, right? So I'm like, I've been like trying to do the same exact thing like you said. So yeah, it's definitely tricky though. I feel like it's one of those things where it's kind of instilled in us, right, to work that way. So I definitely feel your pain on that one.
That's one of the main things that I talked to a few transitioning vets myself, that we all kind of had a common goal is time management. We would overwork ourselves, or at the end of the day, after you work so hard, you kind of feel like you didn't accomplish a lot. So then you go back to work, or you go earlier, or you stay up later trying to figure out, oh, how am I gonna match up all the work that they did with the work I did, and you normally surpass where you were supposed to go.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Too easy. Yeah. I was just gonna say burnout is real.
Oh yeah, not even a question.
Yeah. So Anthony, I definitely want to be respectful of your time. One final question we have for you, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up. You kind of already touched on it, but we spread the word of what SkillBridge is about for multiple viewers and other companies who haven't even heard of the program. So question for you: why would companies benefit from utilizing the SkillBridge program or CSP program?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I think one of the biggest things is, for a very minimal price, you are getting someone that you can pretty much do a trial. You can see if they work for your company, they'd be a good fit for you for 2 or 3 months without having to worry about paying their health insurance and all, their actual salary. I think that is a huge benefit for companies. And coming out of the military, I couldn't have been more happy. I had no clue about it until probably my last 8-9 months in the military. One of my other coworkers was getting out and was looking into it, gave me the information, and I ended up going through them. But definitely something that I think definitely propelled me into the next level of getting the job that I wanted and being successful getting out of the military. Because as we all know, it's not. If you just go out there on your own, not using connections and not knowing somebody, it is tough just going out there trying to get a job for anybody, more or less someone coming out of a totally different background than everybody else, and it's a little untraditional. So I think for the service member and absolutely for the employers, definitely a great opportunity.
100% agree. Just to piggyback on that, I was stationed in Aviano, Italy, my last yard, and that was I was the first in my unit to be able to participate in the SkillBridge program.
That's amazing.
But I was just like, why am I the first?
Exactly. Yeah. I had not a similar, like I said, there's that person before me, but he was the first person to do it. So then it's like, then your CEO is asking about it. Then the XO is talking to people about it. And before you know it, you're giving briefs to people about it that are getting out of the Navy. And it's like, oh, well, why is this happening already at every command, right? Why isn't everyone doing this everywhere? And why do you not hear about it until your last 2 months of the Navy or military while you're at TAPS? You should, you know what I mean? You should know about it way before that. I feel like, I did TAPS 6 months before I got out, but still they brought it up and 3/4 of the class had no clue what they were even talking about. I got up and talked about it because I was already enrolled in mine and planning on going to do it. So it's like it's very definitely underutilized.
100%, 100%. But yeah, that's what pay it forward so we can get more traction on there. And
Absolutely.
definitely. And so, Anthony, with that being said, we appreciate you so much for your time. Me and Leo definitely appreciate it. And we want to say, thank you to viewers for tuning in. And we are now out.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.